Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Webinars by Hashnode. And I welcome all of you yet again to this webinar where we will be discussing about all things open source. I am pretty excited because open source has always held a special place in my heart and in my technical journey in general. I am also here to listen to all of your stories regarding open source. Maybe you can share some tools that you use on a day-to-day basis or tools that you found out when you were almost going to pay for a service and you realized that there is a better open source alternative for that. So I'm all here to hear your your open source stories or tools that you really love. So, and we also know that this month, the month of October, is known as the month of open source because of Hacktoberfest. So, if anybody here is participating, feel free to put that out on the comments and even maybe meet few people in the community who are contributing to open source, who are participating in Hacktoberfest this year. So, we are here to just talk about open source and stay tuned till the end because I have a special announcement from Hashnode that I'm sure will be helpful to all open source maintainers. And if you're not an open source maintainer, but you know an open source maintainer who can benefit for them from this announcement, feel free to tag them on our tweets, send them across. Feel free to DM me, just DM on Hashnode, send them across to our Discord channel. Just feel free to bring all your maintainer friends or any tool that you really like to our special announcement. But before I start with sharing my screen, I'll send the link to a recent article that I wrote, which is everything that we will cover today. And if you want to know what we have for the special announcement, you need to read this article till the end because towards the end is when I have mentioned what we have in store for you. So I will add that in the comments and we should be good from here. Cool. I see a few of you have already joined, so without any delay, let's get started. What I'll do first is I'll start sharing my screen in just a second. Okay, here we go. Cool. I'll just share my entire screen because there's more things that I would like to share, and you should be seeing my Canva presentation right now. Cool. Hello and welcome everybody to this webinar where I will share 5 tips or 5 must-haves for any open source project that will set you up for success and will also pay special attention to how great talks and community can help you drive developer adoption or can help you get more developers use your product. As somebody who has been a maintainer of a few open source projects, I know how these things matter a lot, that developers knowing our product, developers using our product, developers giving our feedback, and getting to that stage where developers know about you, where developers use you, give you feedback, raises issues, sends bug reports. There is some work that you need to do to even reach that stage. And today is all about the 5 tips that can actually help you grow. And towards the end, I will also show you how you can build amazing docs using docs by Hashnode. And also the surprise, which is if you are an open source project or an open source company or somebody who is in the open source space and you want to have documentation for your project or for your tool, we are giving out free access for lifetime to all open source projects of any size, be it very small project to be it being it very big projects. And you can access that, and somebody from the team or even I'll reach out and give you access to it. And towards the end is when I'll show you the platform and show you how you can use it to create amazing docs. So let's get started with the first half of the presentation, which is 5 must-haves for open source success. By the way, right now, if you have any comments for me, I won't be checking the comments right now, but then I have my colleague favorite who will be there to respond to your comments, and I will also respond to your comments soon after I'm done with the presentation. So, getting started. Hi, it's me again. By now, if you have attended my webinars, or you must have seen me on the Hashnote channel for quite some time now. So, I work here as a developer advocate at Hashnode. And other than that, if there's anything else that you want to know, just go to your terminal, type npx space hello hyphen hemantika, and that is where you'll get to know more about me and have access to my social media profiles. So that's all about me. It's done and dusted. Now, moving forward, let's see what is the agenda for today. First, we'll talk about the 5 tips that can help you scale your open source project. And the second one is how you can, or I'll basically show you how you can build a documentation for your project, and we will be using docs by Hashnode for that. And a major reason why we're covering this is because documentation is a crucial part for any technical product or any tool, and it's often a very hectic process. It takes you days and months to build a documentation that developers would want to read, but using docs by Hashnode, you'll see how you can actually do that in a matter of few minutes, and it will generate you beautiful looking docs. So we'll see that towards the end of this session, and I hope you stay tuned till the end. Moving forward, the first tip or the first must have for any open source project is to write good documentation. And this I think this should be like a t-shirt where you should get it printed, or maybe it is a cool sticker idea. But as much as we as developers maybe we'll skip through documentation or we'll read only the important parts, but at the end of the day, it is the documentation that's basically the holy book to our product or to our service or to our tool. And everything and anything that a developer wants to know or do with your tool or product will get from your documentation. So you need to make sure that it is very well written. You need to make sure that it is very simple, follows a simple language, it is easy to understand, it has a very smooth developer journey and a great developer experience. Right now, with the generation we are in, or with the with the way that technology is advancing, we want our products or the tools that we are using or anything that we are consuming to be looking very nice or having a very good experience, which is why even if it's documentation, you need to make sure that the developer experience is top notch. And these are few of the things that you need to keep in mind while writing a good documentation. I have also written a very recent article on some of the tips to write good documentation or to make sure that your technical writing is amazing. So you can follow those blogs. I'll also make sure to add them in the comments below. So basically, 2 things or 3 top things that you should keep in mind while writing documentation is: make sure it has great developer experience, it should be simple, and it should also have a good developer journey. For example, whenever somebody is reading your documentation, the first thing that it should have is they should have some context about your product. Once they do that, the next thing that they would like to know is, how do I use it? So basically, what is it? How do I use it? And the third question is, how can it help me? So whenever you're dealing with these questions, you'll automatically have a flow that whenever a developer is reading a documentation, they feel it as well. And whenever they are on your documentation, they find it very easy to get started. And that's how eventually you'll have more and more developers using your product just because it has great developer experience. From my personal point of view, a lot of tools that I use today is majorly because the documentation was amazing. The time to hello world was very less, down to a few minutes, which is why it had great code examples. It had great API references, it had a playground and everything that I could use directly within documentation. And it was easy for me to get started without any hiccups. And even if I faced any hiccups, there were also following documentation on how to solve it, or there was great support on how to solve it. So you need to make sure that the documentation you're writing is encompassing all of these factors. And as a maintainer, especially if you're a solo maintainer, writing good talks, having a good support, building a community, all of these takes a lot of human hours or takes a lot of your time. So if you can sort, or if you maybe you can tackle both of the things, like nailing good developer experience, having support, writing good documentation, writing change logs, all of this in one tool or in one place that makes it easier for you, that is where it becomes that is where it's a big help for maintainers in general. And all of these things can be done by docs by Hashnode, and we will be seeing it in just a few minutes. Moving forward to the next tip is build a community. From my experience at open source projects or at open source companies, I have seen that the community is the foundation. It starts with one person who might have randomly found your project through, it can be through anything. If you're promoting on Reddit, maybe they have found it through there, or if you're just putting it out there and they have, most of the open source projects that we have today are found because one developer faced a problem and he's like, oh, I'm facing this problem, so I'll just make a project that solves this problem. And another developer like you finds the tool that is solving this exact problem. And that is how the chain grows. It doesn't grow abruptly, or it doesn't grow very quickly, but all it takes is one developer to be helped with your solution. And as a maintainer, whenever you see that people or developers across the globe are actually having fun using your tool, that is the big hit, or the big win that you are looking for. And slowly and slowly, you need to make sure that this group of developers or this group of users grow, and you can keep all of these users, or you can keep all of these supporters in one place. And this is called a community. So you do not need to make any extra effort or any special effort to build a community. All you need to do is have a great product, have show your human side to these developers. Whenever they're facing any problem, make sure that you're dealing with them with empathy, you are responding to them, and you're making them feel welcomed and heard. And if you're doing these basic things, your community will grow from one developer to 10 to 100 to thousands in just a matter of few months or maybe a few years. So that's what I say, that if you're building an open source project, try to build a community around it. And there is no extra effort that you need to do. It could be a simple GitHub discussion where two or three developers are just discussing their problems, or you have put out a discussion and then you find a solution for it. That is how it grows. So building a community should be a byproduct of what you are doing. And at a lot of times it could be a conscious decision that you're making as well. But having a community around it helps. Most of the projects that are big today is big because of the community support that they received. So I mentioned this as one of the must-haves, because if you are dreaming big, a community is a great place to start. And you don't need to have big aspirations, or you need to make big preparations to actually build and start a community. It can start from a simple GitHub discussion, and then you can scale it to something like maybe Discord or Slack or any other community tool that we have today. So the second must have that I feel is have a community. Moving forward to the third one is to be active and responsive. I covered few parts of it in my previous point, but in general, this is the people who are using your product are humans, and at the end of the day, they do want to be heard. They do want their human feelings to be regarded. So just be active and responsive. And by being active and responsive, it could be something as simple as sharing updates, writing change logs, letting your, the people who are using, even if it's one developer, just letting him or her know that, hey, these are some of the updates that I shipped, or this is where I am facing problems. Like, does anybody have any ideas on how I can move forward? Or this is the product roadmap that I am thinking of. These are the features that I want to add. How can I do it? Be very vocal, be very active, and be responsive. If there is somebody who is raising a bug report, or there's somebody who is opening a new feature request, just a small response that, hey, I'll be looking into it, but at this, like, even at this point, if you feel that this is not in the scope of what, of your idea of the product, just let them know that this is not the scope of our product, but be responsive. It could be a positive response, or it could be a response where you feel that this is not the right time to deal with it, but be responsive. Any response is better than no response at all. And also, the health of your open source project, it depends on how active is it, how many releases are you doing, or how, what are the products, or sorry, what are the features, or what are the patches, or what are the bug fixes that you're releasing. So make sure that you are very active and responsive. That is how people will discover your project. That is how people will know, okay, this project exists and is thriving. And that is how you slowly and slowly you build and scale a project. And I feel that I should mention this. Open source is a long term game. You need to be very, very, very patient. It takes months and years. And I have seldom seen very less projects actually getting the big hit in a few days. It usually takes a very, very long time for developers to know your actual potential. So being consistent, being at it, is what will help you reach your goals. And following the steps that I'm sharing through this presentation is what will help you reach the goal or get that North Star metric. So be active and be responsive. Next is be open. And by this, I mean that a lot of open source projects I have seen, they are open source, but they are not open source by the spirit of open source. What I mean is that they may be having a license and everything, which makes it open source technically, but then they do not have a good contributing guide, where people do not know how to contribute to their project, or maybe they do not have a readme where, like, even before you're setting up a documentation, or even if before you're setting up anything else, you need to have a very small and but detailed readme on what this project is about and how can one install it. Like, if it's something that has to do with locally, if it's a hosted version, they can just click on the link and do stuff. But if it's something that, or if it's something that one needs to try it out, how do they do that? So make sure that you have a readme, make sure that you have a contributing guide. And the first thing that you should do whenever you're clicking on new repository and you're making it public and open source is to have a license. And when I put open in quotes, I also mean that you should be very open to feedback. You should be open to criticisms, that most of the times it could be very healthy criticisms that you are receiving from people, that, hey, this is, and this is the good part and also the bad part of open source, that people can be very straight or very blunt at times, and they might be as they might be on an issue and say, okay, this doesn't work, maybe the approach that you followed is not great. But at these times is when you should remember that whatever you're doing, or you started this journey because you wanted to be there for the public, you wanted to give it back to the community. So be open to feedback, be open to suggestions, or be open to ideas. Because most of the projects that I know are popular today is because that there was one person who gave them suggestions, and the maintainer actually listened to it and implemented it. So when you're doing that, your tribe grows. This person who felt heard will probably tell this or spread the word through word of mouth to their friends, that, okay, this is the project that I am using or I just found, and it's a really nice project. The maintainer is great, they're very responsive, they are very open to feedback, and that is how it grows. because at the end of the day, whenever you're building an open source project, you're doing it to help the community. You're doing it because you want to contribute to the spirit of open source, and by that you need to be open to everything that's coming across your way. And that's how you deal with it. It takes time. It will probably take you a few months or even years to actually get used to the feeling of it, but at the end, the more open you are, or the more there's this term, or this open mindedness, the more open you are to anything in general, the better it is for your open source project. And the final one is a little bit on the technical side, is to have automations in place. And by automations, I mostly mean by CI/CD pipelines. And one of the biggest example that I can give is, let's say that there is an issue that has to be solved, and then there is a PR, or a pull request that is attached to it. If you have CI process in, that is, a CI that is in, that is doing the work for you, or it is running some tests for you, it is a win-win for you and also for the contributor. For you, because this helps you set a certain quality of PRs that the contributors know you are expecting from them. And from the contributors side, since you have already mentioned these checks, or these checks are automatically triggered whenever there is a PR, they know what kind of standard, or what are the things that are failing, or the things that are not working. So having these automations in place, having a nice having some CI/CD pipeline in place, is what will make your job easier. Like, you don't need human intervention to do all of these things. That is why we have tech. So make use of the tech to make your life easier. And these are the top 5 tips that I had in, I had in my mind. And I have also seen that most of the projects that are big today, or that are very popular today, have all of the things that I just mentioned. I have written in more details in my article that I'll share the link to, and I have also shared in the comments. But with this, I hope that you have taken away something, and it will be helpful for the, if you're already building a project, or if you're planning to build a project. And before I move forward to building a documentation for you, I would also like to say that open source is hard, especially if you are a maintainer. There might be times when you have high number of monthly active users, when your product is great. Maybe multiple companies are also using it, but then there is lack of funds, or there is not much support that you're receiving. And especially because it's very difficult for solo maintainers, where you're getting tons of issues and bug reports or feature requests, and you're the only one who is tackling all of this. So we at Hashnode, we are trying to solve this by providing you a free open source license for our product Docs by Hashnode. So if anybody is here and you want to write documentation for your open source project, you are more than welcome to fill the form that I have added in the description. And as soon as you fill it, I will be reaching out to you with a coupon code, and you will have access to Docs by Hashnode for free for lifetime. With that, I will end the presentation, and I will start showing you how you can build a documentation using Docs by Hashnode in just a few minutes. So we'll go to hashnode.com, and if you're using it for the first time, you need to sign in. I have already signed in. So once you do that, if you're using it for the first time, you need to sign up first, and only then you will be redirected to a page like this. Currently, we offer 2 products, and the first one is our blog. If you have been using Hashnode, we know you must know that we started as a blogging platform, and we also have a very active developer community. So for this, you just need to start, and then you just need to click on new blog and just start writing. And we also have this in headless mode. So if you are somebody who wants to build your own UI, like what I'm showing right now, and host it on your own subpath, we also have Hashnode blog in headless mode. So that's the blog part. But what we are more interested in for today is the docs part. So docs basically is our newest offering, and if you would like to know more about our docs product, just go to hashnode.com/product.docs. You'll get to know about all the features that we have. And if you're an enterprise, if you're not an open source project, just click on talk to our founders, sign up, and our founders will reach out to you in 24 hours. So let's go back to new docs. All you need to do is just click on this plus icon, and you can click on, either the edit docs or new docs. Or if you want to create a new docs, just give it a name, and you can give it a name basically that what will show up for your URL. You can upload a logo, like we have the default Hashnode logo here, and then you can click on create, and it will create a documentation for, like, an empty documentation for you. I have a few documentation already created. So what I'll do is I'll just go into one of them and show you all the cool features that we have. So here are two things that you can see. One is our guide editor. This is where you can actually start editing and writing your docs, and you also have a dashboard that has access to everything that you need for your docs. So let me show you the editor first. I'll go to guide editor, and here what we have is we have, like, you can have new guides, and this guide could be something maybe quick starts, and then a slug is optional. You can either have a slug, or you can just keep it as it is. And then you click on, basically you have a new guide. And if you are on the free plan, you can just create one guide, but if you are on the paid plan, you can create multiple guides. So let's go back to, okay, since we are here in the quick starts guide, and this is where we give you three options. You can either create a new page, or you can create a new section. Since we mentioned about change logs, and I mentioned it as one of the top tips that you should do for your open source project, I'll show you how you can use Hashnote docs for your change log as well. So I'll create a new section. I will call it as change log. Okay. And underneath this, I'll create a new page, and I'll rename this to something like changelog version 1. And you can add a page description here that this, oops, this is my project's changelog. Obviously you can make more sense out of it, but since it's just a test one, I'm just writing anything that's coming up on my mind. And this editor that we are editing on is a markdown powered editor, which means that all the markdown syntax that which is basically 2# means it's heading. So it will just give you heading 2, and it could be getting started. And we also have slash command. So if you want to add text, you can just add text and say, hi, this is live from the webinar. We also have code blocks that you can go ahead and where you can go ahead and add your codes. And we support a bunch of languages and frameworks that you can check out from here. And my favorite one, since we are on the topic of technologies, is our Hashnode AI, which, if you are on our docs or if you're on our articles, it is free for every user. So you just do /AI, and then it can help you generate code. It can help you summarize page. It can also create a page outline for you. Not just that, if you are selecting this piece of text, you'll also see an option called Quick AI, and it can help you improve writing, fix spelling and grammar. It can help you modify the sentence, change the tone, and it can also help you transform the structure of the sentence. Not just that, you can also give it a prompt, like something maybe like write it like Elon Musk. That's a very random example, and you'll see that it gave you a response. So Basically, you can do anything and everything within the editor, and that I feel is the best part, because you don't need to switch between PRs and everything to get started. And even if a non-technical member wants to contribute to your talks, they can do that either from the editor, or we also have GitHub Sync. So if technical members want to contribute, they can do that from GitHub. But this is the editor part, and what we'll do is we'll publish this guide, and we'll also publish this page. And I'll open this page just to show you how it looks. Just give me a second. Yeah, this is a syntax error, of course. Publish the page again. And yes, so this is how your docs will look like. And we already have a search bar that is also AI powered already here. I'll show you how you can do that. You can also toggle between dark mode and light mode. Very cool, very neat developer experience. This is what I meant when I was talking about developer experience. Now let us go back to our docs, and I'll go to our dashboard, because this part is really cool. Like, your dashboard is basically a powerhouse of everything that you need. If you want to change the appearance, you can go ahead and do that here. If you want to add a logo, if you want to add a fav icon, you can also add a custom JavaScript. Maybe if you want to add custom elements, or if you want to add anything with JavaScript, you can do that using the appearance part. And then there is default theme that you can set from here. If you want a get started button URL, so there's a lot of customizations that you can do from the dashboard. And we also have a lot of integrations that are already in place. So, and will also be adding more integrations. So these are just a bunch of few ones that we have added. And then there is also this analytics part. Since it's a new one that I created, it only has one time view, one view. But then the more views your docs get, you'll get to see all the analytics here. You'll get to see which countries are you getting the view from, which operating system it is. It's just me. I just opened the guide, so you'll just see my details here. And the best part is that you can go ahead and add a custom domain to it. So if your project name is xyz, it could be xyz.docs.xyz.com or xyz.com/docs. And the best part is we also have headless mode. So if you want to have a consistent UI for your docs, and you don't want to use your hosted UI, you can go ahead and upgrade to the enterprise feature and then use our headless mode. And you can also add multiple members here to invite. You can just add the usernames, or you can also just create a link for them and invite them to docs. Then we have this custom pages part. This part is really cool. So an open source project will include more than just docs. It could be something like resources for the community. It could be some of the shout outs from the community, and maybe you want it as a header for your docs. So you can do that. This is what the custom pages section is for. You can create a custom page, and all you need to do is maybe write it at resources, and you can also write it as resource. And here again, it opens up our editor, and you can say, okay, this is resources, and this is list of resources, and we click on done. If you want an image for sharing, you can upload that here. If you want it to be SEO, like you want it rank higher in SEO, you can just add a description, and then you can create page. Now what you can do is you can go to the nav bar here, and if you see that your nav bar here just has this docs part, but let's say you want to add something more. So what you can do is the item label can be resources, for example, and the link type could be a custom page, and you can just link it to the custom page that we just created. And it's here. What I'll do is I'll go back to our doc, I'll refresh it, and it should ideally show up. And yes, we have it. So you could see that how you could create custom pages and add it to your nav bar, and there's so many other cool things that you can do. One of the coolest things that I love is our API reference. So if you're somebody who is using Open API, we have a single click Open API spec importer. Just need to click on new, and here you need to click on new API reference, and here you need to add your Open API spec URL. That should be a JSON file or a YAML link, sorry, YAML link basically. So my favorite example is this pet store pet store API that we have. So I'll just go ahead with this one just to give you an example, and it could be API, and I'll just click on import and create, and you see in just a matter of few seconds a new API reference was created. I'll see how that looks like. As you can see that this, in just a few seconds you have an API reference that is imported along with an API playground. So if you need to put some the tokens and everything here, but basically if you run the code right now, it will give an error, of course. But if you add a token, the API playground here will show you how the response is supposed to look, which I feel is pretty cool. And it also takes away the initial, the heavy lifting from you, that you don't need to go ahead and code all of this, because this is done for you. And for an open source project, your documentation should be a simultaneous process to the code that you're writing, and a solution like this is what makes it much easier for you. So right now, if you see that the ideally I would like the API part to be here. So again, you can go to the nav bar and just, add a new item and call it API, and guide, and you just call it, like a pet store. And if you, yeah, see, the you already have this API part on the nav bar, and if you're going to docs, the introduction part, the resources part, and the API will have your API reference. How cool is that? I really love this one. Now, my second favorite feature is the AI search for dogs. So we already have a very fast search. So maybe if I'm looking for something like pet, you'll see it gives me a list of guides where there is a mention of pet. And if you want something like, I'll show you what it does. So I'll enable AI search for dogs, and you need to give it a minimum of 3 questions for the Ask AI button to show up. So I'll add very random questions, that what is a pet, or maybe like what is swagger, and since we have something to do, what is a store, maybe find pets by status. Let's just do it, find pets by status, and I'll click on save. And as you can see that these questions being added to the search AI showing up here is all in, it's all in real time. So what I'll do is I refresh it once again, and you see that the Ask AI button just showed up. It wasn't there before, it showed up only after I added these 3 questions. And when you click on Ask AI, it shows up as the research assistant, which I feel is pretty cool, because as an open source project and as a solo maintainer, a lot of times you will be receiving questions or support queries that you might not be able to respond, but it's all there on documentation. And if people ask anything about it, like maybe something like find pets by status, since we had something in the API response, API reference, it should have returned. But then right now the docs is basically empty, so it needs some information to give you information as well. And you don't need to worry about you training it and taking care of the heavy lifting, because that is what Hashnode will do for you. The moment you keep updating the guides, Ask AI or the Hashnode AI is also learning and relearning, and will help you with the exact response that is needed. And the last feature that I would like to show is the GitHub Sync. So what we need to do is we need to click on Hashnode app. So basically what it does, it helps you connect your GitHub repository to Hashnode, and it will sync your markdown and MDX files into beautiful user-friendly docs that we have been building from our UI. So what I'll do here is I'll click on install Hashnode app, I'll try to configure it and set up. Okay, I'll give it access to all my repositories, and I'll set the app here. Okay, select only one repo. So I don't have a repo created here. What I'll do is I'll go to my profile, and here I'll webinar demo repo, and I'll click on create a repository, and I hope that the repository is created. Yes, we have it here. So let's go back to installing our, yep. Let's only select one repository, and the repository can be the webinar demo repo, and then we'll click on save. That's it. What I'll try to do is I'll go back to hashnode.com, and sorry, this is a different doc. I'll go back to this dashboard, and I'll come here to GitHub. I'll try to install this. Let's see. And it should be good. Nope. Or let me click on webinar demo report again. And it should be installed. It will probably take a few minutes to show up, but basically what you can do is once you have connected your repository here on GitHub Sync, basically in this repository that we just created, anytime you are writing an mdx file or a markdown file, this, it will be reflected on your docs. And that, and if, and I think this is the beauty, or this feature is a hero feature especially for your open source project, because anytime somebody wants to contribute to your docs, they can do it directly from GitHub, and it will show up on Hashnode docs. So that's how Hashnode can actually help you in building beautiful looking docs along with all the features that is needed for effective documentation in just a few minutes. With that, I hope that this demo has been helpful for you. And just a reminder that if you are an open source project, or if you are an open source, or I mean, if you maintain an open source project, or if you know a maintainer, tell them that Hashnode is giving away free license to all open source projects of any size, and we and redirect them to this form. So just look for open source license Hashnode, and you'll see that there's this form where you just need to fill a few details, basically your email, your name, the company name or the product name, your project URL, and the kind of product that you want license to. Like if you want license to our docs, if you want license to our blog, and you just click on submit, and me or somebody from the team will reach out to you with a coupon code that will give you access to our products for free. So that's all for today. I hope you all had fun and learned something new from it. I'll stop sharing my screen, and I'll see if there's anything that we have in the questions. I see. Okay, so the open source license, this is the link to the open source license. So if you all want to go ahead and apply, this is where you can apply. And as soon as you do, I'll receive a notification, and I will be there with the coupon code to give you access to a documentation. With that, I don't see any comments in the dialogue, in the comment section. So I think that we are good. Okay, we have also received some comments about our dogs. Thank you, Bhanu Prakash. Yes, I personally am a fan of our own product, so I definitely love it. And with that, we can call it a close until and unless there is anything that anybody have questions, which I don't think we are getting. So we'll give you back the 15 minutes, and I am really thankful for all of you 180 people who are watching us live to stay for staying tuned with me, for being such patient listeners for the last 45 minutes. And with that, I will end this live stream, and I hope to see you in the next one. Next week, we'll be bringing up another topic, and I hope you get to learn something out of these. With that, I'll end the stream and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.